It's always like 3 octaves too high. Hi, guys. How are you? It is Thursday, Friday Eve once again. Thank you for joining me. I'm so happy to have you all here. Oh my goodness. So I have complained about the heat for months. I'm just not I don't do warm weather at all. I am literally freezing now. I don't know what happened, but it went from like 90 degrees and it is like 47 degrees. I am freezing. I am so cold. Good morning. Are you guys cold? If you are here in Knoxville with me, you are cold. I know you are. Joan, Jane, if you are home, you are freezing. I had to turn on the heat. I'm so cold, and it's weird because yeah. All right, so good morning. Good morning, good morning. I know you guys are like, why don't you just get to the project? But I always like to give a couple of minutes to let everybody kind of filter in. That's why I always kind of carry on with just silliness, and I'm talking about being really freezing cold. All right. Oh, Suzanne says she's loving it in New Orleans. It's 60 degrees. It's supposed to be 60 today. It's supposed to get up into the 60s, but it's really weird. East Tennessee weather is one of those things where they always say, like, if you don't like the weather, wait 10 minutes. That's so true. And our seasons, like, we don't really have much spring and we don't really have much fall. What happens is we have summer where it is hot and it's so humid it hurts to breathe when you go outside, and it's just sticky and nasty hot, and then you wake up one day and it's freezing cold. That's like how it works. There's no in between. There's no, gradual walk into winter. It's like summer happens and then boom, winter. There's nothing. And our winters are really not that cold, but when you're used to it being 90 degrees outside and then you wake up and it's like 30 degrees, it's like, oh no. Yeah, so I'm going to pull out the sweatshirts today. I'm actually kind of looking forward to that. I like cold weather, but it is a shock to the system when it's been 90 degrees and yeah. All right. So I know I'm not even going to ask you how you are. I've already asked you that like 3 times. Whew. We have fun things today. You guys, in the Halloween collection, I'm going to pull it up here on the computer. There is pumpkin spice and everything nice, and there is a bead strand and a mix. And as much as I absolutely adore the Ringmaster, because it has my name on it, I kind of have to, which I do love it. I think it is, and I'm so proud and just so humbled by that whole situation. My next favorite is the pumpkin spice and everything nice, just because it's so stunning. It's just really, really beautiful. It has orange, but it's not like in your face orange. It's this really just beautiful fall warm tone orange. The metals are mixed. There's like the antique brass and the copper is like that antique copper. So it's more on like I don't really know how to explain it. It's warm. It's not really like pink. That did not come out of my pink. Oh, it's always a struggle. You never know what's going to come out of this mouth. It's just really a beautiful mix. If you don't have it, go check it out. If you do have it, this is going to be a fun project where we're really going to use all of those beads. We're going to mix them together and just mix things up. And we're going to introduce some fairy silk into the necklace project that we're making today, just to kind of add an extra layer to it. And we're working with some different wire. This wire is artistic wire braid, and some of you probably have this at home and have not used it, because I feel like a lot of times when Beadalon, because it's a Beadalon product, and I feel like a lot of times when Beadalon releases things like artistic wire braid or the twisted wire, you get it because it's beautiful, but then you open it and you're like, okay, now what? What do I do with it? Well, the artistic wire braid, it's 14 gauge, and so it is a little on the chunky side. It comes in round, it comes in square. I'm working with the square. Both round and square are available on jessiejamesbeads.com. But I'm going to show you how to use it. There's a lot of things you can do with it. I'm just going to show you one of the ways, and then we'll talk about some more of the ways you can use it, because it really is absolutely beautiful. But I do feel like people get it, and then they're like, I don't know what to do with it. So I'm going to show you what you can do with it. It's really neat stuff. It's really, really pretty, and it adds like an extra layer of depth, an extra, it just brings some more texture into your design. So, all right. I feel like there was something else I needed to tell you. Oh, I do. I remember. I don't remember. There is free. Hold on. Let me double check Sarah's message because I don't want to say the wrong thing. So there is free suede lace. That's what it is. The words were escaping me. Free suede lace today on jessijamesbeads.com. Go and take advantage of that. And before we get started with the necklace project, I'm going to show you why it is that the suede lace is free with your orders today, because I made these really cute friendship bracelets, and that tutorial is over on YouTube. So if you've not checked that out, go check that out as well. One more thing before we get to the project, I wanted to mention, I know a lot of you are members of the Secret Stash group, and we love that you are there. If you've got friends that are not part of the Secret Stash group, go get them. Drag them kicking and screaming because they will not regret it. Something else, though, that you may not be part of is Pinterest. I have been working really hard on the Jessie James Beads Pinterest page. It's been there for a long time. Like, there are projects on there from way back. And I have had the opportunity to go through all of those projects. I'm kind of cleaning it up just a little bit. I'm giving new life to the old projects. I'm adding hashtags so that those older projects, and there's some really, really good ones, you guys, are, bringing them back up to active status. So if you're not on Pinterest, or if you are on Pinterest and you don't follow Jessie James Beads, take a second when we're done here and go over to Pinterest and follow Jessie James Beads. The Pinterest page is not complete. Okay, when you get there, you're going to see it's still, there are some missing pieces, it's still under construction, but there is still so much there. There is so much there. I have really enjoyed the process of like going through everything that is there. I'm getting to see literally every single pin. And so I've got to look at every single project. And I'm telling you, there is stuff from like 2014 that's still relevant. Like, those projects, they're timeless. So check that out. Follow us on Pinterest if you're not doing that already. And yeah, let's make some jewelry. You want to? Let's do it. Let's talk about these beads. And look at how pretty they are. They're just really, really, really pretty. All right, gonna flip you around. Everybody hold on tight. All right, so before we talk about pumpkin spice, I do want to move you guys over to the light a little bit. I feel like the lighting today is kind of weird. Let's talk about why the suede lace can be part of your order today. All right, check it out. So Sarah and I have been working on projects for YouTube, Jessie James Beads YouTube channel. If you are not subscribed to the YouTube channel, go do that as well. You can find Jessie James Beads everywhere, also on Instagram. So please take advantage of all of the social media that Jessie James Beads has available, because there is always something fun going on. There's always inspiration and something to look at. So this was a project that we worked on. We were trying to come up with projects that were quick and easy. And who doesn't love like instant gratification, right? Like, instant gratification that's good stuff. I love jewelry that is simple but still looks really cool. These are friendship bracelets. One is from the Jack mini mix and one is from the Sally mini mix. So the idea behind this was you could make a friendship bracelet, one to wear and one to share. And they're so simple. You're using Jack as the button for the clasp, and you're using Sally as the button for the clasp. So look, see, she is the clasp. There's no hardware. You just slip her through a little loop that you make, and then you've got your bracelet. It's got a link here where there are beads from that mix and a dip dyed tassel. There are really awesome dip dyed tassels over on jessijamesbeads.com. Definitely go check those out because there's some really neat colors for those. And there's the opportunity to add more charms here. That was kind of what I was going for. Like, I want to show off the great beads that were in the mix, but what makes friendship jewelry so awesome is the opportunity to add more things to it, right? So this is one of the ways that you can add more charms, more beads, you know, between you and your best friend. There's room here to add. You could probably fill this up with several. And then once you fill the ring up, then you can actually add jump rings and charms and beads to this as well. So you could really make this a really crazy kind of cha-cha bracelet if you wanted to, but you've got the base in the Jack and Sally, one to wear, one to share. Pretty cool. So I enjoyed that project. You guys keep up with the YouTube channel because we've always got something new going on. As a matter of fact, I used this beautiful pumpkin spice and everything nice to make a hostess gift over on YouTube as well. So I made a, it's a wine topper. It goes over the top of your wine bottle. It's just decorative, but it can double as a bracelet. So when you go to your holiday gatherings, you can take a hostess gift with you that, you know, functions as home decor, but can also be a wearable jewelry item, which I thought was really, really cool too. That was Sarah's brainchild. Love that she has the brain that she does, because when mine stops working, it never fails. Hers is going full speed. So I totally love the relationship that Miss Sarah and I have. All right, so this is this is the pumpkin spice and everything nice strand. Okay, first of all, this is gorgeous all by itself. This just screams make me a bracelet. It's really hard and difficult for me to you know, cut this apart. I have cut this apart, but it was hard because the team at Jesse James Beads that puts these together, like I've said it a million times, they know what they're doing, you know, and they put things together so beautifully that you could just put this on some elasticity and you have a beautiful bracelet that like nobody else has, unless they shop at Jesse James Beads with you. But I mean, you know, still, it's beautiful. So just wanted to show this off. We're not going to use any of the beads from this strand in our design today, but I did want to show it to you. We are, however, using stuff from the design elements, and mine is apart and not full because I'm using this here as well as over on Silver Silk and More. When I get done here, I'm making a different necklace using some of this, but I'm going to pour some of this out just so you can take a quick look at what's available, because for today's project, I really am using a lot of beads. Now, keep in mind, this is not full. I have pulled from this, so this is nowhere near everything that is in this. So this is that bottom layer, has most of the beads. There's some beautiful orange Swarovski. There are some glass beads that are orange, the disco ball beads, these with the ball chain that I absolutely love. We're going to use one of these beads in our focal. And we really are going to take advantage of not all, but most of the beads for this project. The metals in this, there is the antique brass color, as well as the copper that's in this top layer. So let me move this out of the way, and we will talk about what's in the top, because there's some tassels and some of that really beautiful copper that's there. All right, so the copper in this has the two shades, which I really love. So there are these two tassels. We're going to use one of these golden tassels for our project. There are these really awesome pops of orange tassels. Look at the little owls. Are they not adorable? There are little owl charms. There are little jack-o'-lanterns. There are little squirrels with acorns. I mean, come on. How cute is that? Like, this could be the perfect little charm bracelet. And there's really not a whole lot of thinking to it. You know, it's like Jesse James Beads already did all the thinking for you. You just put it together, which I think is phenomenal. So this is that antique copper color. It's a lot darker and deeper, but then there is this lighter shade of copper that I really love. It's kind of muted. I don't really know how to describe this color, and it certainly is not coming across on camera, but it really is beautiful. And then you do have your little tassels, these little fabric tassels as well. So this is it's a great mix. This is one of my favorites. I know you guys get tired of me saying, oh, it's her favorite, because everything's her favorite. But really and truly, out of the bead mixes for the Halloween, I love the Jack and Sally. I really, really do. And the Pumpkin King design element, it's beautiful. Like, they nailed it. But I love warm fall colors and tones. And so this mix and the strand just really kind of spoke to me. It was just, I don't know, I feel like it was just good stuff. It's always good stuff, but I don't know. I think I was most excited to work with it just because I love the mixed metals and those warm colors. All right, so we're going to use a mixture of all of those beads, and what we're going to do is we're just going to link them together. Okay, we're going to do some wire wrapping, and then we are going to link some of the links, or the bead links rather, together with some jump rings. And we're making 2 strands, one for each side of the necklace, but the 2 sides don't match. Okay, so for those of you who are really big on things being even and symmetrical, you're going to have to throw that out the window today, because we are anything but matchy today. Today we're just doing a mix of the beads. This is 1 strand for one side of the necklace. It's already done, just so you guys don't have to sit here forever with me. I went ahead and even added a jump ring and a lobster clasp to the end of this. So 1 strand is already ready to go, but I did want to show you this is kind of where we're going, okay? All right, so I'm going to sit this to the side. We do have a couple of the links for the other strand already done, but in the meantime, I need to work these up. So we're going to do a little bit of wire wrapping, and then we're going to put everything together, and then we're going to make the focal. The focal is really super cool using the braid wire, which I have here. Okay, you can see all that texture. Isn't that awesome? This stuff is really, really cool. I can't wait to show you what we're going to do with this. But first, let's start with some easy things that we already know how to do. All right, so I've cut some pieces of my 22 gauge wire, and we're just going to create some beaded links with the loops on either side. I've got enough here to do 3, so that's what we're going to do. And then we'll move on, okay? All right, so taking a piece of my wire, you really only need about 3 inches, but I've got more than that because that's just the way I am. I'm going to come in with my chain nose pliers. I'm going to grab that wire. I'm coming down about 1.5 inches. 2 inches might be a little too much, okay? Grabbing that wire, I'm going to bend it 90 degrees. This is the shape we've got, okay? And then we are going to come in with our round nose pliers and grab that wire that is running between the barrel of the pliers. And we're going to go up and over. Okay. Making that funny little shape. And then I'm just going to adjust the grip on the pliers so that I've got enough room here to go ahead and take that wire and bring it on around so that we have a loop. When we take it off, this is what we've got. Okay. All right, I'm gonna switch hands. I am gonna move this. I feel like the iPad struggles to focus when there's too much for it to look at. All right, so we've got this, and now I'm gonna do some wire wrapping just 3 times around with my tail. You can use your fingers. I'm using my pliers just because it's easier. Okay, so I've gone around 3 times. I'm gonna take that off. And then I'm going to trim my little tail, and I'm ready to add a bead. So we're going to add this really beautiful bead. This was the center bead on that strand. Oh my gosh, you know what? I did use beads from the strand. Huh, who knew? I told you guys I didn't use any of the beads from the strand, but I did. I forgot. This guy came right off of the strand of the beads. Well, I lied, you guys. Don't listen to me. All right, so I'm going to thread that on, just like so, and then we're just going to do another wrapped loop on the other end. And I want my wrapped loop to go the same direction, okay? So we're just going to double check, make sure that I've got my pliers in the right position so that they're both going to go the same way. Oh my gosh, Robin, she says it's not even 8:30 and it is, what is she, 78 degrees already, 98 again for our high. That's how it was here like last week. Maybe not last week. I think the temperature had started to come down a little bit last week, but no joke, week before last is like we were still having 90-degree temperatures. It was unbelievable. Makes it really hard to like get in the holiday spirit, you know, and get in the Halloween mood and when it's 90 degrees outside. That's just hard. All right, so I just wire wrapped that one. Same thing. Okay, made my little loop. Gonna trim off my tail, and you can see I had way more than I needed. And sometimes I use that. I'm gonna show you. If I have extra wire, when I wire wrap my little beaded sections, we can use up some of that. All right, so gonna sit that guy to the side. Let's do another one. This time, let's do a single bead with this long piece because I know I'll have some extra. Same thing, gonna come down, grabbing my wire, bending. Oh my gosh, Dell says the wind chill is 23 where she is. Oh my goodness, that's what I'm talking about. I say, oh my goodness, like I'm shocked, but like, I love cold weather. When it's not as shocking as it has been today. It's like, it's really cold. All right. You know it's cold when I turn on the heater because I love it to be cold. I can't sleep if it's hot. All right, so there's my loop. Gonna trim that off. And now I'm gonna thread on just this one rondelle bead. This did come from the mix. The rest of these did come from the mix. I think I just pulled that one bead from the strand just because it was so pretty. Couldn't resist. All right, so same thing. I want to make sure that my loops are going the same direction. Okay, so bending my wire. I've got that room there. That's really important to make sure that you bend that wire over the top of the pliers and not just directly as you're coming out of the bead, because otherwise you won't have any room for the wire wrapping. Coming in with round nose pliers, going up and over. Joan says, if you think this morning was cold, you would not survive winters up north. No, I know. It's just, I was just shocked by it. I love the cold weather. I really, really do. But this morning, because I didn't have the heat on originally, and when I got up this morning, the temperature outside was the same as the temperature inside, and it was just, it was a little cold for me. That early in the morning, I was like, okay, there's not enough coffee or sweaters for me to be prepared for this. All right, so now I have this extra wire here. If you run into that and you want to add a little decorative something, let's do that. Oh, I got a bead stuck to my hand. All right, so with me always having the extra wire, so let's just use it to our advantage. I'm going to lay it across the surface of the bead. Just kind of angling it. I'm going from this side to this side, so opposite sides of the wire wrapping. And then I'm just going to take it and wire wrap over the wraps that are already there. There's no good reason for it other than I just like the way it looks. So if you feel like doing it, go for it. If you've got the wire to do it, that is. You can always plan ahead. You know, if you do want to do that to every one of your beads, you can by planning ahead and having some extra wire. But I was just taking advantage of the situation. Wow. All right. Lots of words coming out of this face today. All right. So let's do one more and then let's start putting everything together and then we'll work on that focal because that's really the main part of our necklace. And then we're going to add the fairy silk, which is fun. All right. So one more little wire wrap section up and over. I would love to have a winter up north. I really would. I remember going to Beadalon. Beadalon is in Westchester. They've actually moved from where they used to be, but I love Westchester, Pennsylvania. It's like the cutest little town in the whole world. Like, if I could live anywhere in the world, it would be Westchester, just because it is the cutest little place. And the first time, no, I guess it was the second time, I went to Beadalon to visit with everybody. There was snow, and gosh, they just get the best snows. We don't get snow like that here. I loved it. It was great. You could still drive. There was no chaos. Like, if it just barely snows here, people lose their minds and don't know how to drive. They don't know how to do anything. But in Pennsylvania, they're used to those snows. It was just beautiful. All right. And Sara is not too far from there. Jesse James Beads, they're in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. I have not been to Bethlehem, but I would imagine she gets the same amount of snow. All right. There's that guy. Okay, so now we have some beaded sections here. Some of these I already did just to save some time. So we are going to put these together with some jump rings, okay? I am using these little, they look to be about 5mm jump rings. They're just that weird size because I made them myself, but 6mm jump rings will work just as well. Or 4, it's really up to you. Well, actually, I take that back. 6mm jump rings, you're gonna have an easier time with the fairy silk. We're actually gonna weave the fairy silk through our jump rings, okay? So if you're using the 4mm, you might have a little bit harder of a time. You can still do it, but 6mm is, you know, you've got a little extra room there. All right, so there's that one, and we're just gonna thread on a bead. There's like no rhyme or reason to this, okay? That's why I said if those of you are out there that you have to have symmetry, then this project is probably gonna drive you crazy. But it's fun, you know, to think outside the box a little bit. So there's another one, and we could have wire wrapped all of these together without the jump rings, but the jump rings are really integral for our fairy silk, and you'll see why when we get there, okay? All right, just gonna keep going. And you'll notice that I have mixed all of the beads up. There's no real uniform pattern or anything like that. Like, I just put together beads that I thought looked okay together. Some of them look great together. Some of them, you know, they just were meant to be. Like this little mix here, those guys were just meant to be together. Some of them are on their own. So really, it's up to you. This is one of those designs that every single time you do it, you're going to get a different look. And I love stuff like that. I think that's fun. All right, again, just some more of the beads. This really just shows off all of the beads that are in that mix. Look at those little galaxy beads. Aren't they beautiful? I love those. Love the way they catch the light. All right, just a couple more to go. And then there's one right here that has the rhinestone spacers. The rhinestone spacers came off of this strand as well. So if you're looking for the rhinestone spacers in your mix, they're not in there. I used a little bit of everything for this, honestly. I just forgot when I was talking about it earlier because I had a full strand sitting here. It's like, did I really use beads from the strand? I guess I did. All right, so that's the last one. Now we want to attach this to the one that we already have. So I want this really pretty focal bead to be down towards the front of my necklace down here. So I'm going to make this the back. I'm just going to take another jump ring, whoop, if I can get a hold of it, and add it here. Okay, close that up. And I'm going to go ahead just to save some time because we're going to have to do this anyway. And close that up. So here are our two strands, okay? They are mixy-matchy, or not, they're not matchy-matchy. They're mixed up. Both strands look different. There is nothing the same about them at all. Yeah, there are some of the same beads there, but they're not even mixed up the same way, except for these guys, because they were kind of meant to go together. This guy definitely came from the strand as well. I don't know what I was thinking, you guys. It was still early when we started. All right, so those are the two strands. We're going to sit these to the side because we need to connect these two together. However, if you wanted to stop here, you could just add a jump ring here and be done, right? You'd still have a beautiful necklace if that was all you did. But we're extra here at Jesse James Beads, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to be a little bit extra. I've got these two beads that came out of the mix, this beautiful one that has the copper and the gold tone, the ball chain wrapped around it. I love this style of bead. And then this antique copper style bead, okay? So these are the 2 beads we're going to use, and we are going to create a focal for our necklace using that braid wire that looks like this. It's got that swirl on the bottom, and then it's really just easy wire wrapping. There's really not much to this, but I did want to show you that you can use the braid wire, even though it's thick. You can use this the same way that you use your other wires. Do not be intimidated by this stuff. It's so pretty. There's no reason not to add this into your jewelry making, okay? So I have a big long piece of it. I don't cut anything ahead of time. James says I love extra. That's why we're friends, James. I love extra too. All right, so like I said, not going to cut any of this because I want to save this. I try really hard with my braid wires and my fancier wires to have as little waste as possible, which is totally different for me because you guys know I'm always cutting more than I need. I'm going to set the beads to the side for just a second. One thing I do want to do before I get started is I want to check the end of this. I have already cut this end, so it's not going to fray. Okay, you do want to double check because if you've cut and it's sat in the drawer or it's been, you know, just laying around, the braid can come undone. Okay, so you can have these frayed pieces at the end, but if you'll cut it with a really good sharp cutter, it almost sears the ends. It's really weird how it happens. It kind of mashes those ends together so that it's workable and they're not going to come undone. I am here in just a second going to show you something though that you can do with this when it is starting to unravel, just for fun. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a spiral. And you guys have seen me do the spiral before. We're using the just regular chain nose pliers for this. This is 14 gauge braid, artistic braid wire. Mine is square. It also comes in round. Both styles you can get over on Jessie James Beads. Okay. And it's gold color. I always leave that part out, but I figure you can see it so you kind of know. All right, so I'm grabbing the tail end of that wire and oops, I am just going to begin very, very gently to turn a loop. Okay, and you can see where I mashed the end of that, it's actually starting to fray. But I'm going to clean it up here in just a second. So I've just turned a little loop here and it is fraying on this side just a tiny bit. You can come in with your pliers and just lay that little guy right back down because that's what he wants. He wants to lay down. He doesn't want to stick out. And you can use your nylon jaw pliers. They're really, really handy for working with the braid wire, by the way. All right, so just cleaning that up just a little bit. So a good cutter tool, because I was asked, Lynn wants to know what type of sharp cutter. This is the one that I use for just about every, well, I take that back. I don't use this for everything. This is the designer flush cutter from Beadalon. This is an Italian made tool, so you do pay a little bit extra for this, but it's, in my opinion, it's worth every single penny. You can get this over on Jessie James Beads as well. It's a flush cutter, so when you cut wire on this nice flat surface, all the wire on this side of the cutter is going to cut flush, meaning you're not going to have that jagged edge. Like you really do get a flat, see that? There's no pointy edge on that. It's good and flat. That is really, really important with this braid wire, okay? Because it naturally has so many different strands that it wants to come undone. So if you can cut it with a flush cutter, even with a semi-flush cutter, you're probably going to be pretty good. But it will kind of mash those ends together and keep it from coming undone on you. I use this for just about all of my artistic wires and my German style wires, unless I'm cutting really, really thick gauge wire. Once you start talking about 10 gauge, 12 gauge, I have another pair of cutters for that. I don't use these because I don't want to mess up the blade on these. Bead stringing wire, I use a nipper for. That's different than this guy. It's just a standard black nipper tool. They're inexpensive. Any will do. But this guy, I take extra good care of him and just use him for certain things. All right, so back to our spiral. We want to continue spiraling around, so I'm going to use my nylon jaw pliers just to hold the wire. Okay, so I'm holding it in the jaw of the pliers, and then I'm using the wire to kind of bend around to create a nice little spiral. Okay, you can go as big as you want or as small as you want, really up to you. But I don't want to go too crazy, so I think I'm going to stop right about there. Let's double check with the one I already made. Oh, not yet. Let's go one more time around. And then I do want to separate it out just a little bit, and I'll show you. Show you what I mean. All right, there we go. Now, you see the spaces. You can see the space between the wires. That's important if you want to hang anything in there on this outer edge of our spiral. So I do want that. If you don't have it and it's too tight, you can always just kind of separate it with your fingers and open up those spaces there, okay? All right, next, I'm gonna come in with my chain nose pliers. We're just gonna treat this the same way we would any other wire, and I'm just gonna give it a sharp bend. Okay, just like that, so that our spiral is gonna sit exactly where we want it to. It's not gonna be off to the side. Okay, now, because this is 14 gauge wire, you could stand to work harden this just a tiny bit. You don't have to, it's gonna stay. But if you are feeling a little insecure about it, or you don't feel like your spiral is nice and tight, you can put this on a block and hit it with a nylon hammer. I would not hit this with anything other than nylon. Rawhide would work as well, but I would not hit this with a metal hammer. It will destroy that braid. So if you feel like you need to work harden this, you can, but it really doesn't take a whole lot. I'm gonna match, or I'm not gonna match. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna skip that part. I don't know, words, I just don't know. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna thread on 2 beads. I'm gonna thread on this guy, and you can see he has a nice large hole, so he fits perfectly on this 14 gauge wire. I'm gonna bring him down. He's gonna sit right there next to the spiral, and then I'm going to thread on this other antique copper looking bead right there, okay? All right, I am going to create just a wrapped loop on this, but I'm going to come up just a tiny bit. I want there to be a little bit of room because I am going to do some wire wrapping again down here on the bottom. So you want to be sure that you're not, like we normally do, we would grab the wire right as it is exiting that last bead. We're actually going to move up just a little bit. Not much. It doesn't take much, just a tiny bit. Okay. I'm going to bend the wire 90 degrees. And you can see it's going to behave the same way. It's not going to give you that nice sharp bend that you're used to with your smaller gauge wires, but it's still going to behave in the same way. Okay, I'm going to come in with my round nose pliers, and I'm really coming back here towards the back of the pliers. I want the largest loop possible here. You can, if you want, use bell making pliers for this if you really want to get a big loop on this, but I find that just the biggest part of my round nose pliers is sufficient. Okay, so I'm just gonna make a wrapped loop, and you'll notice that I actually turned everything instead of what I normally would do. Part of that is because I have this really long tail. The other reason is because it is a little thicker wire. All right, so that's what we've got. We've got plenty of room. We're gonna wire wrap. I'm gonna put this back on the pliers though, and we're gonna wire wrap around about 3 times, okay? Now, I'm gonna come up from the back. Well, yeah, I am. I'm gonna come up from the back. Now, we're gonna do kind of like we did with that one bead where I had the extra wire. I'm gonna go across the surface of that copper bead and then between the 2 beads, okay? And then around the back. And then down here to the bottom. Okay. I didn't I didn't do what I said I was going to do. There we go. There. I really do want that in between there. So laying that across the surface, and then I'm just going to wire wrap here at the bottom. Now things are getting kind of out of shape. We're going to clean all this up because you can see now it looks like a J. We're going to fix it. Don't worry. All right. So now I'm going to come to the back. I want to make sure that this is on the back, and then I'm going to cut this with my flush cutter. And then I'm just very, very gently going to come in with my pliers, my chain nose for this, and just kind of squeeze that down. And You can even squeeze this with your fingers just to get it going. I just want to be sure that there's nothing sticking out that's going to get caught on your clothing, and there's not. See how nice and flat I got that on the back? All right, so this is what we've got. It looks like a J. It looks nothing like what I showed you guys to start with, but that's okay because we're going to adjust it. We're going to take our pliers. You can use your chain nose pliers. You can use your nylon jaw pliers if you want to. I need to turn this loop so that the loop is facing this direction so that I can thread it or hang it however I want to. Okay, so the loop is going this direction, so you're just getting that front section of that beautiful braid wire. And then down here on the bottom you can see this is definitely not the shape that I was going for, so I'm just going to use my fingers to bend that out to where I want it. As this wire is very, very pliable. I think that's one thing that really shocks people when they get it, is they don't realize how soft and easily manipulated it is. James says, no pokey outy bits. That's right. No pokey outy bits. We don't want any of that because it gets caught on your clothing. And since we're making fall jewelry, we're talking about knit clothing, of course, it will totally get stuck in your sweaters. You don't want that. All right, so there's this guy. He does look a little bit different than the first guy, and that's because the beads are upside down. But just to show you, you can do this either way. Makes absolutely no difference. It's still beautiful. Really and truly, you can wrap this braid wire around anything, and it's going to be stunning. That's no joke. All right, so there is something extra, and somebody just mentioned it. Joan just mentioned it. Wyatt showed everybody a few years ago how to make a ring with this wire. I am not going to make a ring with the wire, but I am going to show you something real quick before we put the rest of our necklace together, because if you've got this braid wire at home, or if you're going to order it, you're going to have leftover pieces of this, and I do want to show you what is possible with this. So the braid wire is a bunch of smaller wires. See that little guy? It's a bunch of all those wires, obviously, hence the name, braided together. So what you can do is you can take your pliers very, very carefully and open the braid. Okay, you might need to get your magnifier out. I certainly am having trouble because I'm far away from this so that my head is not in the shot. But you can take your pliers, okay, and very carefully open up the braid and separate the strands. Oh, like I said, so you're going to unbraid your wire, and you're going to have all of these little tiny pieces of wire. And when you open it far enough, okay, what you're going to end up with is you've got the perfect setup for a ring or anything else. Flowers, lots of really, really cool things, okay? So now you have all of these pieces of wire that are available. You can keep going and make them really, really long, right? And use your nylon pliers to straighten them out, or whatever you want to do to it. You can put a bead here in the center and then use all of the little prongs to capture a stone, capture a bead. You know, you can use these as, you know, bending them in like that so that you see what I mean? Like your stone is sitting in there and you've just captured it with these little prongs. Or you can thread beads, small beads onto these, and then create little tiny spirals with these to hold your beads on. It's really kind of cool stuff. So if you are interested in picking up this wire, really, really play with it. There are so many different options with this. The ring that she was talking about that Wyatt made, the band itself was made with this braid wire. Okay, this is just really kind of, I hope he's not watching because I am not doing his project justice. But you made the band out of this wire, and then you sit a bead here on the top, and then you added all these extra beads and spiraled the edges so that you had this really beautiful, like, showstopper ring, you know? Just really, really cool stuff. I know it looks kind of crazy, and that's not a ring anybody would ever wear with it looking as bare as it does, but it's cool stuff. That's my point. There's so much more to this wire than just using it for your wire wrapping. So just some food for thought for you guys. All right. Yes, Stacia says you could make a tiny tree of life. You absolutely could. You could do a lot, like for real. You could do a lot of things with this. I love this wire. It's fun to play with, particularly if you've got an extra piece laying around and you're just kind of, you know, if you've got creative block and you need something, that's a good one to mess with. All right, so let's bring in our necklace. Okay. And we're going to connect the ends, and we're going to use our focal, and we're just going to use a jump ring for this. And then we are going to take this to the next level. So I'm just going to open up my jump ring. I'm going to thread on one side of my necklace. I'm going to thread on my focal, and then I'm going to thread on the other side. Okay. So again, you could stop here if you wanted to. You could be done. You could have a great necklace just like this, but we're not because we're extra. So we're going to come in with a piece of fairy silk, and I got to double check the name on this one. I think this is the Waikiki ombre fairy silk. I picked this one because I thought the nice browns and gold tones in this really kind of went really well with these beads. So we're going to add a piece of fairy silk to this, and what I like to do is I like to start in the middle. I know that sounds weird, right? But there is a reason for my madness. So I'm going to find the middle. I'm going to thread this through. Since we have this large bail on our focal, I'm going to thread the fairy silk through that instead of that jump ring that's right there. Okay. For one thing, the loop on this focal is going in the right direction. So I'm going to thread that on and find the middle of my fairy silk. Give me just a second. All right, so that is the middle. Now we're going to do one side at a time. Okay, so let's start with this side. If I can stay in the shot, you guys could know what I'm talking about. All right, so very carefully, what I'm going to do is I'm going to weave the fairy silk through the jump rings. My end is a little frayed here. I may trim some of that extra off. Oh, this is a terrible pair of scissors that I picked up. Hold on just a second. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm going to thread my end, the very first jump ring that I come to from the center. I'm going to thread this through that jump ring, okay? And then I'm going to pull so that that fairy silk lays up against the bead, okay? Now I'm going to go the opposite direction with the same strand. The next jump ring is here above the top of this bead, so I'm going to go the other direction, thread my fairy silk through. Okay, we're just going to keep going. We're going to do the same thing. So now next jump ring, I'm going to thread through that jump ring. And we're just going to weave this all the way up to the clasp on our necklace. Okay. And there's several beads, so there's going to be several in and out weaving, if you will. Can't really think of a better way to describe it. But just like that. Okay. And whoops. Now we have made it up here to the last jump ring, okay, right where our clasp is. I'm actually going to go through that jump ring. And this will exit out the back of the necklace. So it's not coming towards the inside, it's going towards the outside. Okay. Now I'm going to leave that just like it is. Okay, so this whole side has the fairy silk and the beads. Now we're going to come back down here to the middle and we're going to do the same thing. We're just using the other side of the fairy silk. So I'm skipping over this bead section, going through that jump ring. Okay, we're going to do the same thing, the next little jump ring in the row. Back through. Whoops. Okay. And through again. Whoops. Hard to see that one. Rachel says the comments have gone quiet. We're all glued to watching the magic. I worry when the comments go quiet. I'm like, oh my gosh, has everybody left? I must be doing terrible. That's funny. All right. So, that guy's gotten a little twisted. There's that. We're getting closer to the end here. Okay, and last but not least, we've got one more jump ring to go through. All right, so now I have woven the fairy silk through the entire length of the necklace, right? On both sides. Now you can come in and you can kind of zhuzh this up a little bit. You can open up the spaces if you want to. You can make it looser, you can make it tighter, however you want that fairy silk to fall, okay, in your necklace design. Up here at the top, or at the back of the necklace rather, I have these long ends of the fairy silk. And I do have a clasp here. You can, if you want to, take your fairy silk and tie a knot and tie it onto the jump ring that's at the end of your necklace and then trim off your end, and you can do the same thing over here. However, I don't like to do that. Just personal preference. I don't like to cut my fairy silk unless I absolutely have to, and in this project, I don't have to. What I can do is I can still keep that lobster clasp to ensure that my necklace is not going to fall off. But when I put the necklace on, then I can come back here to the back and I can tie a really pretty bow with my ends of my fairy silk and just leave it just like it is. So it has the illusion of a ribbon necklace, but you have the security that you have with that lobster clasp. So you don't have to trim it off, but you still have this beautiful fairy silk. You can cut it if you want to. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You know, it's totally up to you, but I love the thought. I don't know, it just feels very romantic, very, I don't know, it's just very soft and feminine to have that bow at the back, you know, pull your hair up and you've still got beautiful fairy silk from the back of your necklace. So there it is, you guys. I mean, that's pretty quick and easy. It's, you know, not a hard necklace by any means, but the colors are what's really, really just kind of stunning of this, or about this necklace rather. That pumpkin spice and everything nice. Like, this is not pumpkin like UT orange pumpkin. This is like good, warm fall pumpkin. So James says, if you cut it, how do you secure it? If I were to cut this, if I did not want that bow at the back, what I would do, that's a good question, is I would just take one strand, okay? It is running through that jump ring, so keep that in mind. And then I would just tie a knot, like I would tie a knot into itself, if that makes sense. I say it, but I can't actually make it happen. No, I can. Just don't wanna, I don't wanna tie a knot in it. So I would tie a knot in it so that it is secured to that was a terrible, this is like the world's worst knot. You put me on the spot. There we go. So I would just do that and pull that really, really tight so that it is secured to that jump ring. And if you wanted to, you could come in with some glue. Now, because this is fairy silk, I wouldn't use super glue. I wouldn't use E6000. I would use fabric glue, okay? Because it's going to be so much nicer to your fairy silk. If you must use glue on your fairy silk, go with fabric glue. Go with Fabri-Tac, something that is specifically made for fabric. You know, you don't want to make this all chunky and crusty with super glue. So you can add a couple of drops on either side of that knot of your fabric glue and let it set up overnight, and then you'd be good to go. And then you could just trim this off as close to the knot as you wanted to. So there you go. There you go. There you go. I try not to cut my fairy silk, but you know what? There are projects where you have to. And it's cool stuff. You don't even have to glue the ends of it. It doesn't fray or anything like that. The stitching on it, sometimes my stitching gets a little long and I'll just trim it off. And then you can always, you know, use some, oddly enough, Renaissance wax. You can take a little dab of Renaissance wax for the ends and then it won't come undone. So there you go. All right, I'm gonna flip you guys around. We are gonna say our goodbyes because I have another video that I have got to go do for you guys. Hi. All right, actually I'm gonna put this on a bust so you can see it. Always looks better on a bust than it does on me because I never dress appropriately to show off this jewelry. All right, so on a bust, there you go. Now, if you leave the fairy silk, excuse me, Eve, you're right. Sorry, I didn't mean to like jump from one thing to the other. Eve says, could you do a couple of quick stitches to hold it in place? Yes, that would probably be your best option. Just treat it like you would fabric. If you don't want to use glue, you could definitely do a couple of stitches in it and stitch it up. You can do that with bangles as well if you're using the fairy silk and you want to avoid glue, because glue really does get kind of crusty and gross. So you can definitely just treat it like you would any fabric and sew the ends together. You can't really sew the ends together on a necklace like this, but you could sew it to itself like you would a ribbon. So you would fold the end over and then do a couple of stitches on the end, and that would work as well. Once you have this on though, you can put the necklace on and then you really can adjust that fairy silk. You can spread it open so that it lays nice and wide. You can adjust the, the space between the beads and whatever. So you can kind of change the look of this necklace. Like you can pull the fairy silk down and have big open places. You can actually use more than one fairy silk to go through this if you wanted to too. That's always an option. So a lot of different things you can do with this. Just giving you a few of them. All right, so checking the time, right on the money, you guys. Sue, yes, you could wire wrap the ends of it too if you wanted to. That's what I did with some of the bangles that I made. There's those projects you can watch in replay on the Facebook, Jessie James Bead's Facebook page, or you can go check those out over on YouTube as well. Usually everything that happens here gets put over on YouTube so that it can live on no matter what happens with Facebook, which is really, really smart. I lost a video, so I know. All right, you guys, I am headed over to Silver Silk and More's Facebook page to do another project in about 30 minutes. So I will be there at 12:30 to use some more of this beautiful pumpkin spice and everything nice mix. We're going to do some wire wrapping and we're going to include some silver silk, of course, because that's why I'm there. In the meantime, you guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope everybody is staying warm, and those of you where it is still 90 degrees, I hope you are staying cool. Crazy weather all over the place. You guys have a wonderful rest of the afternoon. If I don't see you over on Silver Silk, you can catch me here, same time, same place next week, or you can catch me at Sara Ellis Designs Facebook tomorrow at 1 p.m. for another Facebook Live. I mean, you guys just can't get rid of me. I'm everywhere. All right. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day. I'll see you guys soon. Bye, guys.